Today we're going to be talking about law firm branding with someone I couldn't think of anyone who does this better, who literally goes after niche segments of law and goes beyond just marketing to different practice area niches within his law firm, but actually creating different brands to go after different practice area niches. Jay Ruane, the man himself, what are your thoughts on branding?
Well, it's a really good question. I've been a big proponent of branding ever since I started my practice, when I recognized that people were coming to me for a very specific niche. And if I wanted to get outside of that in any particular way, the best way to disassociate my name with something was to build a brand for another vertical. So that way we could have multiple verticals coming into our firm, but it wasn't necessarily tied to me, myself, and I. And the reason why I wanted to do that was twofold. Number one, I wanted to be able to push the work onto other lawyers, and I wanted to own the brand. Too many lawyers I knew back in the early 2000s were, especially in the DUI space, they were lamenting at all these seminars that they were hiring associates because their work volume was huge. And 2 or 3 years later, the associate would leave with half the business, and there was really nothing they could do to stop them. And so I thought about it, and I said, well, if I brand the associate and I don't make the associate a name unto themselves, if they leave, I still own the brand. And so my first foray into that was, we had a woman who was working with us, and I said, you know what, we're not going to brand her, we're going to brand Lady DUI. And Lady DUI as a brand got a lot of traction. It really built up over time. She was featured in the New York Times about the billboards that we had put up with Lady DUI. And she really has developed into a brand. Now she's a partner now here at the firm, and she's not going anywhere. But if she got hit by a truck tomorrow, I could hire another female and slide her into that spot as the new Lady DUI. And so the wonderful thing about branding is that you really make the attorney in the role fungible. We have a number of brands like that. We've got our speeding ticket brand, our pardons and expungements brand. And so by having those brands, number one, the lawyer who's doing the work is sort of interchangeable. So clients are coming in looking for the brand, not necessarily looking for the particular lawyer. I could turn around and sell those brand off if I ever wanted to. So they live on their own P&L, and we know what we're spending on to get clients in under that brand. They are trademarked, and they have all the bells and whistles of their own individual sort of entity, but they work under the same canopy of our main firm, and the support staff that we have supports those brands. And really, at the end of the day, it allows us to then take it to the next level, where we've built whole secondary websites around individual niche practice areas. We have an amusement and water park injury website that generates leads for our practice, that gets funneled to a person in our practice who does personal injury work. Same with elevator injury law. I have colleagues friends of mine who do elevator injury cases, just had a multi-million-dollar settlement in New York State for an elevator injury. So we generate cases for them under the elevator injury lawyer brand, so that they are able to generate cases without necessarily tying them to being in one particular vertical. So it's really, branding is a great way to sort of set yourself up, and it'll allow me one day to come for me to step back from this firm and know that the firm can function without me being involved in every little thing. Clients are no longer calling as much for Jay, they're calling for the brands.
Wow. I was laughing because the creativity is just amazing for you to even think of elevator injury law as a separate brand. So there's two types of people listening right now. People just getting started, thinking of what is branding my law firm? How am I going to give off the right first foot as I'm getting started? And what you're talking about is more advanced multi-practice area branding techniques. So let's stay on this, and then we'll go back to the beginner topic. For someone just starting out, which I believe the answer is organic social, and I'm sure you'll agree. But we'll get to that. Jay owning FirmFlex, I think that this is that'll be a good topic we could hit on. But in terms of this elaborate multi-brand strategy you're following, here's a question. Is there any benefit to having Lady DUI, the speeding ticket brand, the pardons brand? Is it just busyness? Like and I mean this with all due respect, does it just make you feel like you're fulfilling your creative juices by creating these other brands? Or if you were to market under Ruane attorneys and just have really good marketing funnels to them and not have these separate brands, like, does it actually have an impact?
Well, I think it does, which is why we continue to do it. If you look back historically, especially when dealing with, search engines, the top 10 SERPs, that you're getting your listings by having secondary and tertiary brands, we can own more of that real estate for some, basic keyword combinations. For DUI, Ruane attorneys will have 2 listings, Lady DUI will have 2 listings. And so we've got 4 of the 10 organic results right there. And quite frankly, different people, resonate with different messaging. So we've tailored our messaging to be a little different on every brand, so that if somebody responds to what Ruane attorneys is putting out, when they call in, that's who they're going to talk. Their phone will be answered Ruane attorney. Through modern technology, we can identify the inbound phone number and answer the phone in the right particular way. And so everybody really gets the type of lawyer and brand relationship and feeling that is what they're searching out as a legal consumer. The mechanics of doing the legal work may not change from brand to brand, but the brand experience change. For example, I could get in a Honda and drive from here to California, and my destination would be the same, my route would be the same, but I could get into a Lamborghini and go from here to California following the same route as the Honda, and my experience would be different. So what we're doing is we're giving them the experience they want to buy, all the while giving them competent, consistent legal services that we know elevate the game and make sure that we provide the best possible legal services. So branding is really not necessarily what you put out. You can curate it to some extent, but as Jeff Bezos says, brand is what others feel about you. So we want to curate the feeling in the audience, in the consumer, about what they like and want to see. And sometimes it's aspirational. Sometimes people choose their lawyer because they like the message that the lawyer is putting out there. And so we want to be able to do that and give the consumer what they're looking for.
So then the next objection would be, and I think this is something that holds people back from doing niche brands, which is actually my vision for my company as well. I've been hesitant to do it because of the starting from scratch side of it, right? For example, if I was to create maybe 80% of our clients as of the time of this filming are lawyers, but we have other clients in other industries. And quite frankly, the value that we provide with targeted keyword research, granular ad groups, daily, very detailed campaign management, it could be applied to any competitive niche. Like, it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel to do it for dental or other industries. My question is it worth the delay of ROI starting a brand? For example, creating a new URL from scratch, ladydui.com. Like, how long did that take for it to pick up momentum?
Well, it took a while. And what it really comes down to is what your vision is for your own life. Some lawyers say they want to own a vertical and that's it. Some lawyers do like the idea of being a general practice lawyer. And I hate that term, because lawyers who have general practices are an anachronism. They're dinosaurs. They're on the way out, because the current model of legal consumer wants somebody who can solve their exact problem. But you can have 5 different verticals where you solve the exact problem a client is looking for, and you can market your stuff so that there's really no bleed over, and you're not muddling your message among different niches. But at the end of the day, if your vision says I'm gonna niche down into one particular area of law or whatever it is, and you want to own that, that's great. If your end of the day, your vision is, I like this, and I also like a little bit of this, and I also like a little bit of this, yeah, it's going to take a little work. But if it's the kind of thing you like to do, well, then do it. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about being self-employed, is that you can control your own destiny. And you can say, I'd like to take on that stuff. I didn't do pardons work until about 5 years ago. And an attorney in my office brought it to me and said, this is something that we might be interested in. I brought it in, built the vertical, never really touched it until about 2 years ago, went to a hearing myself and said, hey, I like this personally. It gives me personal satisfaction. I look forward to these hearings once a month. And so now I'm not giving it up in the office, because it's something that I enjoy doing. And I can continue to grow that vertical, as much as I possibly can. So, that's one of the wonderful things, is you can say for the next 5 years, I want to do something. And then 5 years from now, pivot to something else. And that's the benefit of being in America, man. We can do whatever we want if we put our mind to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's another thought. So what about, like, you see this in catastrophic personal injury a lot, where all they want to tout about is their verdicts, and they want to build this preeminent, like, high-end med mal appearance of a firm. And I understand it in that niche. I get it in that niche, because the case values are so big, and they do need to be specialists in that niche. And there's, quite frankly, probably not a reason to go into other niches with cases that big. But nonetheless, in any retainer-based niche, or even if you're just doing soft tissue auto accidents and like criminal, family law, expungements, stuff like that, I think it makes a lot more sense to have separate brands. But let me ask you this. Is there like a diversification thought that you have as well? Like, if you were to just go into DUIs, for example, and you just said, that is all we do, and then a law changes that makes, public defenders or something more accessible, and your business cuts in half. Do you think of that when you're building other brands, that it's actually diversifying the cash flow of your law firm as well?
Absolutely. And this actually just happened in the DUI field in New Jersey. There are some recent changes in the laws in New Jersey that remove the potential penalty of jail for people who are accused of DUI. And so now there's less incentive for them to hire lawyers if they're not going to be having much of a risk. They're not going to get their license suspended and the like. And so there's a lot of DUI lawyers in New Jersey who are freaking out, right? What I suggested to some colleagues that I know down there is say, okay, well, that works for the general public, but for the commercial driver, the professional driver, you can niche down even further and get to become the person who only does those types of drivers who still have those potential penalties. There's always the risk. There's always the risk that if you're going to be niched down into one particular area, the comet could hit the earth and wipe you out. And so if you're going to niche down, you got to think about yourself long-term and make sure that it's a viable pathway. I mean, personal injury lawyers are already talking about driverless cars and the impact of that, and that's coming 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So any good business person is looking to see what the future will bring. And when you do that, you can identify areas to maybe grow. And so what you could say is, hey, I'm thinking about this vertical that's going to come to fruition in 5 years or 10 years. I'm going to start investing maybe 10% of my marketing revenue into that. So that way I've built that up. So then as my other things drop, this is coming back up and it's evening me out. So, one of the biggest challenges I find for lawyers is that they figure that things are never going to change. And especially in my home state of Connecticut, there's a lot of lawyers. I mean, I think the majority of our lawyers, 61% of our lawyers are over 60 years old. There's going to be a bottoming out of legal services available to the general public in about 2 decades, when majority of people, the majority of lawyers have died off. And that's going to be a problem for access to justice. It's going to be a boon for the people who are still providing services that require the assistance of an attorney. So you could be ahead of that curve if you're thinking about those things. But if you are insistent that things are never going to change, you're going to wind yourself up in a terrible position in 1 year, 2 years, 20 years. Things are changing. They're changing every day. And by being able to adapt to the change more regularly, you're putting yourself in a position to win, because you may pivot and that pivot was a wrong choice, but you've got the infrastructure and the mentality to be able to pivot again. Whereas if you plant your feet and you don't pivot at all, when that change comes, you're not going to know what hit you.
Yeah. So Another zoomed out question, which, let's just debunk what law firm branding is, because most people, when we talk about law firm branding, the first thought that comes to mind is billboards, right? Everyone thinks that billboards are like how the big firms brand themselves. Would you agree that billboards are the way to brand a law firm?
I think at one point they might have been. I did some billboards early on in my career, and it helped me. I was at a wake probably about a year ago, and the wife of the gentleman who died looked at me and said, "Oh, you're the lawyer on the billboard," which was crazy because I haven't run billboards in over a decade. But they remembered me for that, among other reasons. But I think a lot of lawyers think that branding is their logo, and they've built a brand when they've settled on a logo. But I'm a true believer is that your brand is how people think about you when you're not in the room. And so your brand is everything that you put out. It's how you answer the phone. It's how people see you in social media. It's how people interact with you in the public. It's how people, reach out to you when they want sponsorship of local events, that type of thing. All of those things impact your brand. And so, if you're going to focus on doing billboards, there are lawyers who made millions and hundreds of millions of dollars being ubiquitous on billboards, and that's great. Nowadays, I don't know if billboards are necessarily worth it if everyone in the car is on their phone. 10 years ago, no one's on their phone. You got nothing to do but look at the billboards. Then, yeah, that could have been a place for you. But I don't see value much in billboards anymore because, quite frankly, I was driving into the office today. I saw 7 empty billboards. And it just seems that less and less advertisers are picking that as a way to brand themselves. Now, if you've got a billboard next to the local courthouse in a small town, well, hell, that could be a great branding opportunity for you. But you want to make sure that your message is correct, and you don't want to just, throw anything up there. You want to make sure it's cohesive to the brand message that you're putting out there. And really, every law firm has a different approach to marketing. There are certain things that work for some people that don't work for others. So really, you have to settle on what your brand is going to be, and then be relentless in chasing that in all the different areas that you can do.
So I want to go into 2 more topics. One is logos, because you brought that up. And then lastly is social. The reason I want to go into logos is, this is funny. I do keyword research all the time. I told you I was going to send you my sheet. I broke down every single way that lawyers search for marketing services. And I believe the number 1 in keyword traffic is law firm logos. It's so funny. It's actually like, I believe 20 times more popular of a search than law firm PPC, and about 10 times more popular than law firm SEO, which I thought was mind-boggling. It is searched so much. We're actually thinking about doing campaigns to just offer logo design because it's such a low-cost niche in keyword demand to help lawyers get logos built. I want to ask you about logos, how important they are, and then lastly about social.
I think logos can have a role in your overall marketing approach because you want to have consistency in theme and color and look and feel. So whatever it is, when you decide on a logo, you want to make sure that it replicates well across all mediums. You want to make sure it displays appropriately in digital as well as on print mediums. And so building a logo that you could be proud of is something that many law firms want to do, especially, I'm sure a lot of people look to that because it legitimizes your practice when you're starting out. You get together with 1 or 2 friends to build a law firm. The first thing you want to do is create a logo so you can rally around that. It's why whenever the NBA or Major League Baseball announces a new team, they announce a team with the logo, right? Because it's something that people can wrap their head around. But at the end of the day, you can have the most beautiful logo in the world, but if you're not doing something behind that logo to get people to have confidence in it, you're not going to be able to build that for a long time. It reminds me of that scene in the movie Tommy Boy, where they're in the factory and they're talking about the brake pads, and the guy goes, "But he's got a guarantee right on the box." And Tommy Boy says, "Well, that's great, but all he sold you was a guaranteed piece of beep." Yeah. And the reality is that while it's great to wrap your head around it, what you really need to do is say, okay, now that we've got the logo out of the way, what can we do to build a cohesive message around that logo? And really the logo is the first step of 100 steps, not the only step. So that's the way I think about it. But yeah, I love it just as much as the next person. Let's design a new logo. I love doing that stuff. And I've used everything from online generators to going to Upwork and Fiverr. And now I work with a graphic designer who's based in Philly, who's phenomenal. And I have a great relationship with her because she is just an artist. And she did our logo for us when we wanted to rebrand. So, it's really, you can invest a little money in that and then really say, okay, now that we have this done and this is our rallying point, where do we go from here? Don't think of the logo as the end of the question, but the beginning.
Wow. Awesome points there. And I think the takeaway for me is that the logo is not going to be the cure-all. It's
definitely not.
Whole experience. It's the messaging that ties into that. And most importantly, consistency, which leads to our final topic on branding, which is social. So Jay owning FirmFlex, probably the fastest growing social media, agency service for lawyers. And you have dealt with so many lawyers at this point. So why is social so powerful as a multiplier for branding, both for lawyers just starting out and for experienced lawyers that have been practicing for 20 years and have already built a brand?
So I think one of the wonderful things about social is that it allows you to communicate directly with the general public before they actually even need your services. And so that they can get a feel for how you interact with people, interact with your clients, how you treat your clients long before they ever need your services. And so by putting yourself out there on social, you can define who you are to the rest of the world. Are you somebody who's, really involved in certain areas of your community? Are you somebody who focuses on one particular niche? One of the biggest problems I see lawyers, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, is that lawyers love to tout their verdicts and settlements on social. And that's a terrible thing to do. The biggest problem I have found is that lawyers will put that stuff out there and it becomes all about the lawyer's ego and not necessarily about the client. So how I would spin that in a social sense is, yes, we got a $10 million settlement for our client. And that's great. But you want to tell a story behind that settlement. And what does that settlement do? Well, that settlement allows us to hire somebody to stay with our injured family member when we need to leave and go take one of our children to school. And that settlement allows us to hire someone to help move our daughter into her first apartment because I can't lift boxes anymore and carry them up the stairs. That's what that settlement does. And that's what speaks to people, because people who are injured want to know how you're solving their problem. Their problem isn't money. Their problem is doing the things that makes a life worth living and being able to be there for their families. And so if you take a few moments to think about the context of the stories you can tell on social, you can really position yourself as the kind of person who gives people who have been injured solutions and solves their problem for them. And it's going to make people want to hire you. So from a personal injury aspect, that's great. For a family lawyer, great opportunity to talk about how you help families get to a place of love and respect independent of one another because they do have children to share. And so that's something that you can talk about, how you navigate those thorny issues and really get both people thinking about it's all for the kids, right? In a criminal context, you can talk about the stakeholders and how you're going to make them feel more comfortable with the decision to hire you because you're there to help them solve the global problem, not just the current legal problem. It could be a mental health issue. It could be an addiction issue. You're helping them with everything. And so that's really where I want to talk. I want to push people to on social is tell the story.
Awesome tips, Jay. That is amazing. So where can people go to learn more about FirmFlex?
So real easy, just log on to getfirmflex.com. We've got a do-it-yourself program that allows people to get daily accountability. We give you the themes, we give you the pictures, we give you the hashtags, we give you everything that you need. You just need to execute it. You can do it in 5 minutes a day. Then we check in with you at night. One of our coaches will reach out to you, make sure that you're doing what needs to be done to move the needle. And that's really what it's all about. It's consistency. I could go to the gym, today and then again in December and wonder why I didn't lose any weight. or I can go every day, do what needs to do, and at the end of the year, I'm stronger and healthier. And so we want to make sure that you are executing and you are accountable to social media so you can build your brand and build your name. And that's what we do at getfirmflex.com.
So guys, go to getfirmflex.com and get accountable. I say this year is the year of order and execution. I do not need any more ideas this year. I need more order and I need more execution. We are overwhelmed with opportunity in today's marketplace. It's time to execute on one strategy and then the next and then the next. So thank you so much, everyone, for your energy and attention in this video. Please subscribe to our channel for real-time updates, for more amazing content from the wizards of legal marketing. And man, I love giving you nicknames. And
thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate spending some time with you this day.
Definitely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.